You're watching TheStreet.com TV, Wall Street Confidential. Joining me is Jim Cramer, co-founder of TheStreet.com. Hello, Jim. The Apple has announced the release date of the iPhone, June 29th. Now you got to wonder who stands to compete really with the iPhone at this point. Where does Microsoft stand? Where does Palm stand?
Well, these are all second-rate companies when it comes to this. I mean, people don't like to think of Palm. You don't like to make judgments about something being second-rate, but we would certainly make something be second-rate. If you go to the supermarket, you would think that it's entirely possible you would think that natural food bacon is better or superior to Oscar Mayer. I mean, we have to make these judgments. And people have to understand that Motorola is second-rate versus an Apple. And you have to give Apple the benefit of the doubt because of the consumer franchise it has. So I don't think, I think Nokia's got a pretty good market share and they can keep it going. We saw that they have some new phones. Samsung is strangely and also ran, given the fact that its camera's got such great resolution, but that's because Samsung's not a great marketer. Apple's a fabulous marketer, and Motorola doesn't know what it's doing, although of all these stocks now, the in stock to talk about is Motorola. I've been advocating a strategy of selling Apple into the, keeping a piece on, but selling Apple into the run, not getting rid of Apple, but playing with the house's money. It's very interesting because on stockpicker.com, this is perceived as being that I want to sell the Apple. And that just shows you how much more work I have to do in terms of the way that I trade and invest. It's so imperative not to give back a big gain, and yet that's what is possible that could happen here between 90 and 120 of what's happened with Apple. And I just think that you want to take the perspective that Apple's going to win. But that's what the stock is doing right now. So you also have to take the perspective that it may be not a bust, but a fabulous one that doesn't move the needle. Let's use Pirates of the Caribbean as an analogous thing. Pirates of the Caribbean is gigantic, and it didn't move Disney's needle at all. Apple, and that's because, somewhat because it was, Disney had moved from 30 to 36. Apple's moved from 90 to 121 on the hype of the phone. If the phone is equal to the hype, then the stock does nothing. If the phone fails to equal the hype, then the stock gets hammered. If the phone exceeds the hype, it would be almost, in terms of ranking of what could happen, such a rarity that you will be blessed with the remaining amount of stock you have. And that's the point of holding on to some. But when you look at it's not a third, a third, a third. I think that there's probably maybe 80% chance that it equals the hype or falls below the hype, and only 20% chance that it exceeds the hype. With that ratio, you ought to plan accordingly and do some selling. I think that the phone itself is going to be miraculous, and the marketing is going to be miraculous, but you're going to have to switch carriers to AT&T, which I believe is an inferior system, and you're also going to have to deal with service issues at AT&T that you may not want to do. You may not want to switch carriers as easily as you think. And there's a lot of people who have plans that are not that easily undone. This is not when AT&T Wireless when people were carving up AT&T Wireless. So what I would mention is that there are a lot more moving parts here, and that therefore it's important to sell some Apple on the way up, but to also hold on to some just in case you get to 20%.
All right, got more than I wanted. A strategy on how to play Apple.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Jim Cramer. This is Wall Street Confidential on TheStreet.com TV. Stay with us.